Hey everyone, welcome once again to my channel. My name is Arun Thukral, and as we are talking about how to give and receive feedback, and this is the second session that I'm taking you forward. But just to have a quick recap, if you have listened to my previous session where we talked about what is feedback, what is the importance of feedback, and how a good feedback can help the organization to move faster and in the right direction to achieve their goals. In the last section, we also talked about that feedbacks are of two types. One is called as behavioral feedback at work, and the second is we call it as the competency feedback, or we say that how competent you are in the job. We also talked about that under those headings, there are two kinds of feedback, which is called as redirectional and reinforcement. Now, in this video, we are going to go in greater detail about how when the redirectional and reinforcement feedback is given in a proper and in the right way, it can lead to a lot of positive results. So stay there and don't forget to like and subscribe this channel wherever you are watching me right now, whether it is Facebook, LinkedIn or YouTube at the moment. So here we go. Let me take you through basic concepts that will help you to get that idea. So when it comes to how do we give feedback at the workplace, there are two kinds of feedback that normally plays a very important role. One is on job performance, and second, as I said, that which is all about work related behavior. Now when it comes to job performance, we basically look at the competencies in the job, which means how the employee's competencies and capabilities are there. For example, somebody who knows how to do planning, and if the person is good in planning, if the person is good in execution, if the person, let's say, is good in performance management, that means he is able to fulfill his capabilities in the given job. But if that person is not, which means that he would be given a feedback, how to work on it better. And if somebody is doing better, how that reinforcement feedback can help him to repeat the same thing more often so that it becomes its strength. The second part is we call it as work-related behavior. Now, when we say work-related behavior, it means the way an employee performs, which means, for example, if suppose somebody has a habit of coming late to the office. So what kind of feedback should be given to that person? That he should learn, that he should be, if he is on time, what benefits it will bring, that somebody will not get late, because if he is coming on time, he will replace somebody on time and the other person can also go back to the next shift as it is required. So these are all behavioral related feedbacks. Now when we give these kind of feedbacks, we also come to a very important part. We call it as redirectional and we call it as reinforcement. So both the feedbacks, which means job performance and work related behavior feedbacks, when they are combined, they are given in two forms. One is redirectional and the other is called as reinforcement. Now in very simple term, if suppose somebody is not doing things which are or somebody is doing things which are not leading to achievement of goals, which are not fulfilling the objectives that he or she is given, then one has to change the strategy. One has to look at different ways of doing things, and that is called as redirectional feedback, and that is generally given by the superior or the manager or anybody who is senior in that role. Whereas the second type of feedback, we call it as reinforcement feedback. So somebody who is, whether on behavioral front or whether on performance front, if suppose somebody is doing well, because of which he or she is able to achieve the goals, meet the organizational expectation, then that person should be given a reinforcement feedback so that that particular act or that particular competency can be developed, enhanced and can be repeated so that the person can get more and more results which are relevant. And that's the essence of it. Now, what we are going to learn in this video is that if these feedbacks, that is redirectional and reinforcement, are given in a proper way, they help in achieving the organizational goal. So the topic for today in this session is that how do we give this feedback in such a way that it creates a huge impact. Now this is what I'm going to take you. Now, there are six ways by which you can give redirectional and reinforcement feedback to the employees, but then there is a way to do it. Now the number one is, we call it as focused on act, not on attitude. Now, as it is very clearly mentioned, feedback is all about actions. It is not about the personality of a person. Now, if you start giving somebody feedback on the personality or their education background, family background, gender background, that is something you are hitting below the belt, and that's what a lot of people do not appreciate, and people feel demotivated who are getting the feedback. So in other words, what is the meaning of focused on act and not on attitude? It simply means that you are focusing only on the actions that you have observed. So for example, if the typist is making errors in the typing mistakes, that is what you have to address, the errors, not that somebody doesn't know English, because now you are hitting on the educational skills of someone. So that's where if you focus on the act, a person can correlate that yes, due to those acts, the result has not come up to the expectation. So it can be redirectional or it can be reinforcement based on whatever you have observed the employee or the worker, whether that person is behaving in a particular way, whether it is redirectional or it is reinforcement. The second is, the feedback is always directed towards the future. What does it mean? That whenever we have to give feedback, we cannot give feedback on the past things. No doubt, we have to first look at the past things, but that is to set the context for the discussion, and basis that you have to set the tone for the future. So for example, in the previous things that we have spoken, that the typist was making errors in the typing mistakes that she was doing. Now the question is based on that typing mistake, because it's a performance error, it's not a behavioral error, so it's a performance error or a performance gap. So if the feedback has to be given, it is more in context to the past, that how things have happened in the terms of the errors that person has done, what are those specific errors, and from there what is the next strategy, how you can better it in future, what are the typical words that you are making mistake again and again in the last 10 letters that you have typed. Now once you are able to figure it out, now the feedback says that okay, what are you going to do in the next 10 letters that these problems or these particular subjects are not repeated. And that's what is going to help the particular person, whether the typist or anybody, that he or she can work on improving those things. And that's where, as I said, it helps in achieving the organizational goal. Let's move to the third one, which means it is goal oriented. So feedback has to be definitely goal oriented. It simply means that every organization has certain set of goals that they set it up. Likewise, teams have their goals which are aligned to organizational goal. Likewise, individuals have certain goals which are aligned to team goals, and those are linked to the organizational goals. Now the question is that when people move into the direction of achieving their goals, they do their duties, they do their tasks. No doubt there are various obstacles, there are various challenges that come on the way. And that's where, when they are given feedback by superiors, seniors, or those people who are more experienced in that particular area, can really help that individual to do better in their role. And it is very, very important that once you get the feedback, you can set your actions so that you are moving in the direction of achieving not only your goal, but also the organizational goal. If the feedback is taken in this way, it really gives a lot of results and a lot of fruitful outcomes to the individuals as well as to the organization. Now let's look at the fourth one. Now the fourth one is that the feedback is multidimensional. When I say multidimensional or multidirectional, it simply means that a lot of people feel the feedback, it simply means it is going to come from the top, from your manager or from some senior superior. That means it is always a hierarchical approach from top down. But that's not the true approach. The true approach is that the feedback should also come from bottom to the top. For a simple reason, when the feedback is coming from bottom to the top, only then the management or the senior people will understand what are the real problems that are happening at the grassroots level. And that's how they will be able to rework these strategies so that people at the bottom can get the right set of products, service, or solutions to their problems, and they can help in achieving the organizational objectives. Not only that, the feedback, when I say multidirectional or multidimensional, it simply means that feedbacks amongst co-workers, peers, or cross-functional team also have a huge impact. The simple reason is that when we are talking about co-workers or peers, it simply means that everyone has their own perspective, everyone has their own experience, and everyone has their own way of thinking with respect to their advantage point. Now, once they all come together, sit together, and find out that what is the common problem that somebody is facing and can give feedback how to work on solving that problem, can really make a lot of difference in solving the differences and also achieving the larger objectives of the organization. So it's always multi-directional. It cannot always be like coming from the top and then somebody is only here to receive it. It's always good for a manager to have a 360-degree feedback from all his or her reportees for your own development. Now we move into the next point. And the next point is that the feedback has to be supportive. Well, I'm sure you will agree that any feedback, when it is given to whether a manager, supervisor, or an associate, the intent of the feedback is to support them so that they can do better. Because the idea is that when every level gives feedback to their subordinates or subordinate gives feedback to their superior, the idea is to support each other together to achieve the common goal. And that is the positive intent of giving any feedback to any individual in the organization. So the feedback should always be given with an intent to support and not to demean somebody or minimize somebody, that somebody is not up to the mark or he's not a team player. When you hit somebody personally, people get demotivated, and that feedback does not help anyone in the organization. So as I said earlier, the feedback has to be given on actions and not on the attitude of the person. Now let's move to the last point, which is a very important point, that feedback has to be continuous. A lot of time people feel that a feedback is given at a time, should be given when somebody is going for an appraisal, which means it's like an annual affair to give a feedback, or if there is some specific review is happening. Well, that's not the case when it comes to feedback. Feedback should always be continuous, and the reason of continuous feedback is that people would know on time when they have to redirect their efforts to get better, or they have to reinforce their efforts so that they can do things better and better and make their strengths more stronger. And that is why you would see when redirectional feedback is given in the right and a proper way, over a period of time, the redirectional feedbacks becomes reinforcement feedback. So instead of thinking about a particular event or a particular occasion to give a feedback, good managers, excellent managers, they give continuous feedback, and likewise the feedback recipient is also very positive that he or she is getting feedbacks to improve upon their current state of affairs so that everyone wins together. Well friends, I think you would have got a broad idea about what feedback is, what feedbacks can help, how to give feedback, what types of feedback we have covered, whether it is performance related, whether it is behavioral related, whether it is redirectional, or whether it is reinforcement. Now, I want you to go back and see in your current state of affairs that how you are giving feedback. And next time when you have to give a feedback, you should not be feeling nervous. You should be very clear. You should be sorted that I know on what area I'm going to talk to my subordinate or the feedback recipient, that is it related to performance or is it related to behavioral feedback. I will also cover the next section about how to receive feedback, because once we know how to give feedback, we also should know how to receive feedback. So don't go anywhere. In our next module, I'm going to cover this. Thanks a lot. Thanks for watching me, and stay connected on this channel.